We begin this story with a touching scene. A group of veterans returns home, where husbands, fathers, and sons reunite with their loved ones. Among the soldiers is Frank, whom his mother Janet welcomes with open arms. Together they return home, where she sets out to prepare his favorite meal. There is no better way to show her son how happy she is to have him home. His mother tells him she cooked for him, but Frank leaves the house promising to return in half an hour with a surprise. 30 minutes later, Frank returns riding a brand new Harley Davidson that he won in a raffle weeks ago and whose owner promised to keep for him. After pleading with his mother for several minutes to accompany him, Janet finally agrees and her son takes her for a ride around the city. However, life has cruel ways of knocking us down when we are at our highs. What promises to be an unforgettable ride will soon turn into a tragedy due to a drunk couple driving in the wrong direction. While the woman distracts the driver, he loses control of the car and crashes into Frank's motorcycle. Frank and his mother are thrown off and roll several meters through the desert. When he finally stands up and finds her, his mother no longer belongs to this world. While the emergency services collect the bodies and attend to Frank, an animated scene appears featuring a doctor named Whiskers, who has invented a device capable of bringing people from another world. Before we can understand what is happening, Frank begins to writhe as animated flashes emerge from the ground and he ends up being transported to Whiskers' world before the eyes of the paramedics. Suddenly, Frank finds himself in a world full of cartoons. Whiskers welcomes him and offers him a tour of the place. Convinced that he might have suffered a blow to the head or is dead, Frank just goes along with the doctor, hoping to find his mother in this strange world. The story jumps 47 years into the future, but not to a promising place. We find ourselves in a medium security prison where we meet Jack, a cartoonist who ended up behind bars. His release is imminent, so he keeps his spirits up while creating the creatures that brought him fame and fortune before going to prison. In the outside world, Jack is known as the creator of Cool World, a comic series with a universe full of fantasies for young and adult audiences. The protagonist is Holly, a beautiful but lethal woman. Holly is inspired by his wife, who betrayed him, and after Jack killed her lover, she testified against him, sending him to prison. The night before his release, while Jack is putting the finishing touches on his latest drawing of Holly, hands emerge from the paper and pull him inside. Suddenly, we find ourselves in Cool World where Jack meets his creations, but when he's about to touch Holly, he returns to the real world. Jack returns to his reality, but we remain in Cool World, where we find Frank, now a police detective, investigating the case of a human that several witnesses claim to have seen in the bar. Holly apologizes. She didn't mean to cause trouble. She just longed so much to visit the real world that when she saw the passion with which Jack was drawing her, she couldn't help but show herself. The inhabitants of Curl know touch, taste, and pleasure. Holly laments having been raised to give pleasure without knowing what it feels like. Frank decides to overlook the incident, but warns Holly to avoid any contact with Jack or it could be a blunder. The next day, Jack returns to society. As he passes by a comic book store, he sees his comic in the window and decides to go in. People swarm around him. Everyone loves Cool World and wants it autographed, but before Jack can enjoy his success, someone reminds him that he's a murderer and he decides to leave. At home, his neighbor Isabel tries to greet him, but Jack ignores her and goes inside. That night, while trying to sleep, he is once again drawn into Cool World. This time he appears in a dangerous area where Sashko Baby threatens to kill him if he doesn't hand over his money. Holly appears and rescues him, revealing to him that everything he created in his drawings actually exists in another dimension and that she longs to cross over to his. At that moment, the police arrive. Holly, along with Slash and his henchmen, take Jack, who offers no resistance, convinced that it's all an absurd dream that will soon end. On the other side of the city, Frank is with his girlfriend Lorna, when his partner Nail shows up to inform him that Holly has brought the human back to this world and they must act immediately. Frank arrives at the bar, where Jack starts to suspect that all of this is more than just a dream. Without wasting time, Frank strips him of his belongings and sends him back to his world. This time more roughly, Frank, furious, warns Holly that her actions put everything at risk. Cool forms, an animated character, and the human cannot relate, much less intimately. Brunette listens to this in silence. Now she understands why Frank has never shown interest in being intimate with her. Frank goes to Holly's apartment to warn her once more. If Jack returns, he will have no choice but to erase her. angry. She reproaches him that the only reason she remains in Coolworth is because she doesn't want to face her mother's death. Meanwhile, Jack finds a way back to Cool World and reaches Holly, who seduces him quickly. Upon consummating the act, something extraordinary happens. She becomes a real person. Now she can feel pleasure, pain, and all human sensations. Her companions find her horrible, but she couldn't be happier. While Jack dresses, she steals his magic pan and goes out to celebrate. She encounters Ailes, who tries to arrest her, but she uses the pen to trap him in an inkwell. She returns with Jack and together they go back to the real world, where she is eager to experience everything. Several days pass in passion, and then Jack takes her to a club to sing and dance as usual, but this time feeling every movement. However, after a while, they both start blinking strangely, and at times the humans around them can see their animated versions. They return home to investigate what's happening, but Jack loses his temper when she mentions the Power Stone. Jack insists that they are just drawings he made in prison, but Holly is convinced that the stone is real and she can find it. Seeing Jack unwilling to help, she decides he's no longer useful and kicks him out of the car. In Cool World, Frank learns about what happened to his partner and is forced to return to the real world to bring Holly back. During the process, he suffers terrible flashbacks of what happened 47 years ago, before arriving at Jack's house. There he finds Jack, who is losing his sanity due to the events, but offers to take him where he believes Holly is. The Power Stone is supposedly located in Las Vegas, so they must hurry to catch up with Holly. She arrives at a huge hotel, but is denied entry due to her suspicious appearance. As she walks down the street, she blinks again. One mysterious man warns her that she won't find what she's looking for there. Intrigued, Holly catches him and removes the disguise, revealing Whiskers, who refuses to help. When Jack and Frank arrive in Las Vegas, they find them arguing in the street. Furious, Holly attacks Whiskers with the pen, making him explode. When opening the trunk to collect Whiskers' remains and return them to Cool World, Holly escapes and discovers that by blinking she can pass through walls, so she enters the hotel and goes up to the top floors. Using this skill, she hides from Frank and attacks him from behind, but when it fails, she pretends to jump. Frank climbs the balcony to help, but Holly pushes him to his death. Whiskers, now composed, tells Jack he can save Frank by focusing and imagining it. Jack tries it, and his hands begin to glow, transforming into extensions that can stretch, but they fail to catch Frank. Meanwhile, Holly reaches the top of the hotel, where, to her general surprise, she finds the Stone of Power. By removing it, hundreds of animated characters, good and bad, are transported from Cool World to the real world. With his new powers, Jack transforms into a superpowered version of himself and flies to the top to stop Holly, but she hits him in his private parts and escapes on an animated snake. The other snakes fly everywhere, turning everything they touch into creatures. Jack knows he must stop this, so he chases Holly and retrieves the star. He manages to return it to its place, sealing the breach and dragging all the animated snakes back to Cool World. The people turned into cartoons return to normal, and no one seems to remember what happened. Everyone is absorbed by the vortex. In the end, Jack's feather falls from the sky and breaks, freeing Niles, who finds the lifeless body of his best friend. Whisker suggests it might not be the end. They must return the body to Cool World, where almost anything is possible. On the way back, Niles carries Frank's injured body with Lynette, who gets ready to say goodbye. But suddenly Frank becomes an animated character like that. After kicking Niles out of the room, Frank, and Lynette can finally fulfill their 47-year desire to love each other fully. The movie concludes with Super Jack returning Holly to where she belongs, while he travels between both worlds to maintain peace. And that's how this great movie ends. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and thanks for